Jalen and Jacoby is presented by Grey Goose.
He's Jalen Rose. I'm David Jacoby. We are Jalen and Jacoby. What is it that we
What
do?
up, though? We give the people what they want.
There is so much to discuss today. Is James Harden on the move? The Lakers are already making moves, but you think you're watching ESPN, but you're not. You are watching the Cardinals News Network. We picked the Cardinals to be our team early before the season started, and guess what? It all paid off late in the game last night with Kyler Murray in the backfield and Jalen Rose. What happened next?
Hail Mary, come with me. Hail Mary, run quick, see. And our guy, D-Hop, who over the summer, people were talking about the greatest receiver list. People were getting on the Texans for moving him, and we brought him on our show. And we told him this was their year. So much so that we adopted the Cardinals as our squad, and now their bandwagon is full, Jacoby. What we gonna do? Their bandwagon is getting full. Look at Kyler Murray. He's not just ours anymore. It's kind of like hip-hop. He's gone mainstream, Jacoby. Look at that elusiveness to get to the left. And then throws it up to D-Hop with 1, 2, 3 defenders on him. And Kyler Murray is looking at it on the Jumbotron, Jacoby. Looking at it on the Jumbotron. A phenomenal, fantastic play by those two individuals.
I just want to give a big shout to Bill O'Brien and just remind everybody what the Cardinals traded to acquire the best receiver in the league who made that game-winning play. They traded David Johnson, a second-round pick and a fourth-round pick, got back a fourth-round pick, and Nuke Hopkins, who made that play over 3 defenders that he dunked on in his own words. But this game did come down to that one play, but the story of the game was not that one play. One of the stories of this game has really been developing all season long, and that is what Kyler Murray does when he breaks the pocket. He is just so quick on his feet. He's scored a rushing touchdown in 5 straight games, and in 8 straight games, he's had a rushing touchdown. In 8 games this season, rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown. What do you think about Murray on his feet?
Murray is like that kid in the sandlot that's playing against adults and nobody can tackle him. That's what he looks like to me. Almost kind of like, you know, having a fish in your hand and then it just kind of squirms and squirts away from you. You know, you've been to the park, Jacoby. You know that little guy that shows up, nobody knows who he is, and all of a sudden he out there juking everybody and nobody can get him to the ground. That's what Kyler Murray is. But you know what else I like about him, though? That dude is a leader. That dude is tough. And one thing about being the smallest dude, he got the biggest heart. So now he goes into the huddle and he commands it. And that last play, Jacoby, I just like the fact that he rolled to his left. He put the ball in one hand. When the defender got close, he put it in 2 to elude him just a little more. And he doesn't even see the flight of the ball. He has to turn around and look at the Jumbotron on the sideline. That is phenomenal by Kyler Murray, who is currently, as you called him, the best rushing QB in the NFL.
Absolutely. I made that call a couple weeks ago. It has come to fruition now. But one thing before we move on. You don't know what it feels like to have a fish in your hands, and neither do I, because none of us have ever been fishing, let's be honest. But we do want to move on to that claim that Kyler Murray is the best rushing quarterback in the NFL. And of course, the person that he is taking that spot from is Lamar Jackson. When you look at these two side by side, the comparison, the numbers are pretty close. And remember, that's Lamar Jackson last year when he won the MVP. Kyler Murray's putting himself in the MVP conversation recently. But remember, that was Jackson last year. This year, Jackson hasn't really played to the MVP level. He's been concerning. What concerns you about Jackson this year?
Throwing interceptions has been the crucial thing for Lamar. And also, this team doesn't traditionally run the football as much as I would like. Of course you want to line up in pistol and give Lamar the opportunity to put the ball in somebody's belly and create misdirection opportunities to give him a chance to run. But they also have Ingram. They also have Dobbins. Both of those guys should be getting carries consistently, Jacoby, because the Ravens are a team. Regardless of what we see on offense, they're invested financially year after year in what they do defensively. And so if their defense is going to get run all over the way it did, you definitely can't have Lamar getting an interception in this previous game and a couple of games earlier in the year.
Absolutely. And also last night they lost Nick Boyle, who isn't the same household name that Andrews is, but he does a lot of things for them in blocking schemes and running and in passing. And with the loss of Stanley, they're going to be really hurting with their blocking. And Jalen, you mentioned their defense and how they've got this identity of being a smash-mouth tough defense. Well, guess what? That smash-mouth tough defense got run all over last night, whether it was Harris or whether it was Burkhead or whether it was Newton. They were moving the ball and the offensive line was moving the Ravens. How did they end up doing that in such a rainy day?
I give Cam a lot of credit for playing this smash-mouth offense. However, if you're somebody that believes that the Patriots are going to be able to keep Cam upright playing like this, and they're going to be able to continue to make it to the playoffs, that's the part I don't see. However, what I want to know is how you responded when Jacoby threw a touchdown.
He didn't just throw a touchdown.
That's the only thing I wanted to know.
He didn't just throw a touchdown.
To come out of yesterday's game.
Jacoby Myers, we've all seen non-quarterbacks throw touchdowns. Usually it's some sort of double reverse fake play with a wide open receiver where they awkwardly toss it in the end zone to someone wide open. Not this time. This was Jacoby just using some touch and some loft and putting it right in Burkhead's breadbasket, and he was covered. Big shout to Jacoby, and now he's been playing well the last couple weeks. I will claim him as part of the Jacoby clan. You didn't hear me calling his name too much last year at all. So Lamar Jackson sort of playing himself out of MVP contention. Is Russell Wilson doing the same? The Seahawks lost to the Rams, but it was Wilson's play that concerned you. What do you see on this play in particular?
The decision-making, Jacoby, that's Russell Wilson. This year, he's thrown 3 interceptions in the end zone. His first 8 years, he only did it 1 time. This guy is mobile. When he threw that ball, let me know that his decision-making isn't what we're accustomed to seeing. And also, the balance. I know we talk about top-tier backs, and Henry and Cook and Kamara come up. But Carson is a real legit 3-down back, bell cow style. And without that balance, I see Russell struggling, and also the offensive line giving up sacks. Going into the game, I saw Aaron Donald. He was like, yeah, I sacked Russell Wilson more times than anybody. I could have got him a few times more. I didn't know their team was going to get 6 more sacks in this game. And so they got to do a better job of protecting them, but also Russell and that decision-making is something that we're unaccustomed to, in particular, how he started off this season.
Absolutely. This is the 3rd time in 4 games that Russell Wilson has had not 1, not 2, but 3 turnovers in the game. And we all talk about Russell Wilson because he's a household name and he's an MVP candidate, but we don't talk enough about how historically bad the Seahawks defense is. They are so, take a look at the numbers. These are objective numbers. Look at the league rank. Worst in points allowed, worst in yards allowed, worst in pass completion percentage. They are historically bad. Now, with so much focus on the Seahawks, we do need to salute the Rams, and particularly your namesake, Jalen Ramsey. Lined up against DK Metcalf 30 times, targeted 4 times, only 2 receptions. He shut down DK. Jalen, I know you like that coming from a Jalen.
I do like that because shutdown corners and special teams play, in particular punt returns, kick returns, sometimes get devalued when we start talking about what players bring to the table. And when you have a guy like Jalen Ramsey that could do that to a DK Metcalf, now that really hamstrings in a lot of ways the attack of the Seattle Seahawks, because we know Russell wants to throw it deep to Lockett or Metcalf. So if you take one of those guys away, that's a huge win for the defense.
Big win for the defense, big win for the Rams. Things are really tightening up in the best conference in football, the NFC West. And Jalen, you remember last time Tom Brady and the Buccaneers took the field, They only scored 3 points, and it was at the end of the game. Well, things changed against the Panthers. It was close at first, and then the Buccaneers and Tom Brady went off. Do you think they're back? Are you re-inspired to believe in them as a contender?
I will continue to believe that they're a contender. But like I told you since the beginning of the year, yes, Tom Brady is the 6-time championship GOAT. But there's a reason why when he signed with Tampa Bay, Evans was on the phone with his friends and Godwin were on the phone with their friends saying how the GOAT was going to take their game to another level. And then all of a sudden, Tom Brady forgot and brought in Gronk, brought in AB, they brought in Fournette. And all of a sudden, the guys that were there, including Ronald Jones, like, what about me? We're the reason why you actually signed here. And then all of a sudden, Ronald Jones, 98-yard rush for a touchdown. Now they're making sure not only that they throw it and target Evans, they made sure to force feed him. And that's what they should be doing. And if that's going to be their formula, then that's going to make a happier locker room that's going to perform better on the field.
They targeted Evans 11 times. I think that was intentional based on the storylines that we were talking about on this very show about him being open and Bruce Arians' comments and all that. And you mentioned Gronk and AB and Godwin and Evans and these big names, but Ronald Jones kind of felt like the most important weapon that Brady had on the field yesterday. Everyone wants to talk about the 98-yard run, which he should have been caught from behind, by the way, but he had 192 in the game. He had 94 yards on the ground that had nothing to do with that 98-yard run. They certainly had a great bounce-back performance, but I still didn't forget. I haven't forgot what happened against the Saints. Y'all look good against the Panthers, but I have not forgotten what happened against the Saints. So much happened yesterday in the NFL, but Jalen, there is some huge news in the NBA. Is James Harden on the move out of Houston? We'll tell you right after this. You're watching Jalen and Jacoby.
You're watching Jalen and Jacoby, presented by Grey Goose.
Coming to you live from Pier 17 in the South Street Seaport and brought to you by Chase. Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. Jalen, we have huge news in the NBA. James Harden is unhappy with the direction that the Houston Rockets are going. And if he were to be traded, his preferred destination would be to the Brooklyn Nets. He's spoken to Kevin Durant about it, according to our reporters. That would make Irving, Durant, and Harden all on the same team. What do you think about this potential move?
And also, it'll further the fact that I don't like it overall, Jacoby. I see James Harden as a lead singer. I don't see him as a backup. I don't see him as a member of the band. And you know what else I don't see him doing? Spotting up off the ball, cutting off the ball, moving without the ball. That's just not his game anymore. There's a reason why he averaged 36 points in the NBA last year. James Harden needs that ball in his hands. And you know who else does? Kyrie Irving. Like, KD is going to be 6'10" and be able to get his shot off, whether he playing with Russ or whether he be able to play with the Splash Brothers. But these two guys in particular are two of the best in the game at isolation. And sometimes when you isolate, that means your usage is high. Look at both of those are in the top 10. We just saw that with James and Russ. But also look at dribbles per touch. You see that, Jacoby? 25th. That means one guy's having the ball, the other guy is standing. And that's not necessarily the strength of what we're seeing that made both of these guys great in their own right.
And let's not forget the other side of the ball as well. Neither of these guys have a reputation of being a lockdown defender. Great offensive players, through the best offensive players in the game now and in history, but neither of these guys have great defensive abilities. And also, Jalen, you've got Kevin Durant. You've got Kyrie Irving. You don't need to add a third superstar. You need to add pieces that complement those two. And that's the Brooklyn side. You know who else I don't like this for? I don't like this for the Houston Rockets. Why would you trade James Harden when you've built around him a championship competition, a championship competing team you've built around him in the past? If you're going to trade someone, I'm not taking calls on Harden. I'm taking calls on Westbrook. Until Harden stops showing up, I'm not even talking about trading James Harden, the best, if not one of the best NBA basketball players offensively in the entire league. Now, Jalen, that's not the only big news we have in the NBA. The Lakers, the champions, have made a move in theory. Basically, Danny Green and some other pieces for OKC's Dennis Schroder. Schroder, if you weren't paying attention, had a great year last year, one of the leading vote getters and sixth man of the year. What does the addition of Schroder mean for the Los Angeles Lakers?
It solidifies them at the position because he can finish games, because he competes defensively, he can make an open shot, but also he can come off the bench. And his youthful enthusiasm and his athleticism is going to be something that allows the team to continue to play fast. And so he's going to be a guy that can now get you in 3-on-2s, 2-on-1s, and things of that nature, especially if they bring back Avery Bradley. So now all of a sudden you improve your backcourt by losing Rondo and Danny Green. You bring back Avery Bradley, plus you add Dennis Schroder. But here's what I want to say about the three letters on his jersey. OKC. Now, here's the pro. They have 15 picks, I think, over the next 3 drafts. But here's the con. They've become the best farm NBA system we have going in the league. Every time I look around, okay, you let James Harden go, okay, he just becomes an MVP. You let KD go, he becomes 2 times finals MVP. Russ is going to resurface. CP3 is going to resurface. Serge Ibaka went to Toronto, won a championship, and likely is going to end up with the Nets with KD again. So OKC, with Sam Presti, one of the best GMs in the league, here's my challenge to them for their fans. Are you guys rebuilding to rebuild, never to truly pay and to never truly contend? Because that's the wheel I continue to, that's the hamster wheel that I continue to see them playing under. It's almost like seasons like last year are what they're bolding for, to outplay expectations, not necessarily get over the top and bring their fan base a championship. Hopefully these draft picks that they've stockpiled become great players so that their team doesn't continue to see their best players balling elsewhere.
Jalen, don't forget Jeremy Grant as well. And that's analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. Do you know what else you're not going to hear anywhere else? What this really means to me, Kyle Kuzma's expendable. Kyle Kuzma just became expendable. He wanted a big extension, and when you bring in Schroder, he can solidify that second team. Kyle Kuzma never established himself as that third star or third go-to player in the Lakers last year. If I'm Kyle Kuzma right now, I'm not buying in Los Angeles because he's a great trade piece that they could trade to get better complementary players for AD, LeBron, and now Schroder. Keep an eye on them. Moving, Kyle Kuzma. I want to talk about boxing for a second, Mr. Rose, because there was a fight on Saturday night. There was a fight Saturday night between your guy, Terence Bud Crawford, and Kell Brook. What happened? Just tell me what happened.
Yes, indeed. So here's what I appreciate about Bud. You can look back at the history of some of the people that he's fought and determine that there isn't a true rival there and try to question if he's the best pound for pound. But one thing that gentleman does is, because he's a technician of the sport, he can fight in both stances. So he started this fight basically in a righty stance, Jacoby, and then all of a sudden he was getting hit by the Brooks jab. Then he switched it up, southpaw. And then all of a sudden he started to dominate. And then he caught him with that basic straight punch coming in, and then it was lights out. And so for Terence Crawford, and shout to Top Rank Boxing, I saw Bob Arum, my former boss, get into the ring and talk about some of the opponents that he would like to see Terence Bud Crawford fight. And here's what I would say. We want to see that too. I want to see him fight Errol Spence as well, because Errol Spence wants to fight him also. So hopefully we're getting closer to that mega fight.
That is the only next step in the great career of Terence Bud Crawford. Jalen, there's an elephant in the room we have to address, and we will address it right after this. And that elephant is Michigan football. We got to do it. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss that. You're watching Jalen Jacoby. It's almost here. Wednesday at 7:30 on ESPN. It is the 74th NBA draft. So much intrigue in this draft. There'll be surprises. There'll be trades. Make sure you tune in. 7:30 ESPN Wednesday evening. Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. Jalen, we have to talk about it. We have to talk about Michigan football because no music, no, none of that today. None of that today. We're not celebrating Michigan football today, Jalen Rose. 49-11 against Wisconsin. What do you think about the future of Michigan football and Jim Harbaugh?
I think that this is the worst start that I've seen in my life for Michigan football. It's one thing to lose a game, in particular to Wisconsin, who's ranked higher, but to be down 28-0, that's just something that I had never seen, Jacoby. I want to give props to Indiana. I want to give props to the teams that beat us, but we look really bad. And we made a change at the quarterback, and it gave us some life. But that's not going to change the trajectory of this year. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out for Jim Harbaugh, who's the only Power 5 coach with less than 2 years left on his contract.
All I have to say is it can all be fixed if you beat the Buckeyes. If you beat the Buckeyes, it will all be fixed, but we both know that won't happen. What will happen is we'll be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. on ESPN.